Announcement. Here you are. It's all yours.
You're muted, Rosemary.
Thank you. It's always good to know. I was saying that I really appreciate you guys coming today. And I appreciate Maya welcoming me as a member of Unity of Montreal, which, yes, I decided to do. Until December, I was the co-minister at a small Unity church near where I live in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. However, I'm not from North Carolina. I grew up actually in the very northeastern corner of the US, going to school with French Canadian people. And that's how come I ended up speaking French. I have family members, I have grandparents who came from Canada. And I studied for a while in Quebec at Laval, Université Laval. So I do feel a certain kinship with French Canada, with province of Quebec. And it's been an important aspect of my life, as has living in France and working in France and teaching in French. And the alternative ministry that I felt very powerfully called to start is about transcending the provincial, the local, the regional, the national identities that we all have in one way or another. This is a human universal. To realize, to live in our oneness across all boundaries as divine expressions, as human beings, as consciousness, as life. And what drew me to consider becoming a member of Unity of Montreal was the desire that some of you are expressing to likewise to become more aware across boundaries and languages and social constructs. We are all one, and that's a spiritual truth. And it's becoming more and more crucial today as our world becomes more globalized, as society becomes more globally aware. And what I learned in my work in France was that young adults really are embracing that sense of wholeness, of oneness across the world. They're not thinking of themselves anymore as, well, I'm a Christian and therefore I'm better than you because you're a Muslim or you are something else. Or I'm American and therefore I'm better than you. The whole idea of better than, worse than, is becoming a thing of the past. And the young people are, they're aware of that universally. We see it happening in families. We see the different appearances of humans from different parts of the earth blending as people fall in love, marry, have kids with people from different parts of the world. So that is a basic, important way that the world is changing. And if we want to be able to learn from young global citizens and be a part of their evolving awareness, we need to, catch up with them. We need to become aware of who they are and of the fact that all of us are dealing with the same challenges. So yes, I am going to talk about the alternative ministry, in which we are teaching unity principles, which are universal spiritual principles. There are metaphysical, philosophical principles that you will actually find in the teachings of the different shamanic traditions of the world, in the different faith traditions in the world. As Maya tells us most Sundays, mostly in the mystical sides of these faith traditions, in Kabbalah, in which is the Jewish mystical tradition, in Sufism, which is the Islamic mystical tradition, in certainly in the work of Reverend Richard Rohr in Catholicism, in the work of people who are teaching interspiritual, interfaith, multicultural spirituality. It's the new awareness, the shift, the new, that's where consciousness is going. And it's expanding not only to fellow humans, but also to fellow consciousnesses, to different species. If you begin, for instance, to study the social and emotional and intellectual life of a forest, for instance, it is very similar to the life and the awareness of a human community. You walk out in the forest and you feel this wonderful peacefulness. And there's a real reason for it. There is consciousness in the forest among the different species, among the different trees, and the collaboration for life that exists, for instance, between the mushrooms that inhabit the tree roots and the life of trees, and how trees help each other. They are embodying a similar consciousness, a similar awareness to the one that we as humans are striving to grow into, to become aware in. So the concept that has really shown up for us in Living Peace Now is the concept of a peaceful heart. Is our heart at peace, or is it at war? I'm learning a lot about the deeper meaning of that as we study, as we discuss, as we really examine ourselves in the classes that we're holding we've got about 800 now, mostly young college graduates from across the world, from over 100 countries and many languages. And so every class is a microcosm of diversity. And many of these young people who desperately want peace are Muslims. And so I've been learning a lot from them about the peacefulness that's really at the basis of their faith. Never mind that they are also struggling to come to oneness. But many of the young people who have been brought up in Islam really have lived peaceful acceptance, and they show it. Young Christians are much more likely to be aggressive and to feel as though they need to fight for, as though we need to fight for what we want in life. And it's true in our culture that we couch everything, every desire becomes a war. The war on poverty, the war on cancer, right? I mean, immediately. And the other thing that is common in our culture and that is really very warlike is when we feel in authority, one of our first impulses is when we see someone who we judge as not being good, not doing the right thing. People go immediately to, okay, he needs to be punished. She needs to be punished. And that this, it's part of our definition of love. It's for your own good, we say. And we think about punishment, which is not especially peaceful. It's a judgmental opinion. And we feel that with people from other social groups. We feel it with our own children and grandchildren. If they are not doing what they're told to do, less than was true when most of us were growing up. I see a couple of younger faces, and you guys probably have the benefit of more peaceable parenting than we older folks had. Because I see that too around me, that more and more parents are willing to not judge their kids when they have differences of opinion, but are willing to say, okay, where is she coming from? What is going on? How can I be loving and also, share my experience and what I know, my wisdom? It's a whole different approach. And it is growing. I don't know yet what the difference that will make in the world, but I'm sure it will make a big one. As our young 20-somethings, 30-somethings become 40 and 50-somethings and are the people that are leading cities and states and organizations. That peacefulness inherent in the kind of parenting, in the evolving awareness of what the task of parenting really means. Doesn't mean whipping kids into shape. It means loving, being at peace, not judging. So Jesus in the Gospel of John, chapter 8, the Pharisees brought a woman to him when he was teaching in the temple And they kind of threw her in front of all the students and of him and said, we've found that this woman is committing adultery and that the Mosaic law says she should be stoned to death. What do you say? And the passage, if you read it, says they were setting a trap for Jesus because they knew his teachings and they knew he was teaching love and kindness. And so they figured he wouldn't affirm that she should be stoned to death. And then they would have caught him and they'd be able to persecute him and imprison him as a false teacher. It's a very interesting passage. He changed the name of the game. He started writing all these different sins on the ground, all the different ways that people fail to honor their inner integrity, all the different ways that people aren't at peace with themselves. And then he said, okay, whoever among you doesn't have any sins, you get to cast the first stone. So he really put them on the spot because everybody, there isn't anybody who hasn't betrayed their inner knowing at some time or another, right? I mean, we've all, at one time or another, we have thought unpeacefully. We have been at war with someone, we've been disgusted with someone, we have done something unkind. So he was challenging the Pharisees. What did they do? They all turned around and left. And at the end of the story, there was the woman lying on the ground in front of Jesus, and all the guys were gone. And so he said, so where are they? Didn't anybody come forth and condemn you? And she said, no, Lord, no one. And Jesus said, well, neither do I. Go in peace and sin no more. He didn't take sides. He didn't contradict the Pharisees or the Mosaic law. He didn't blame anybody. He showed, he demonstrated for us what it means to have a heart at peace. To know within oneself that we don't have anything to hide from anybody, that we can look ourselves in the eye, as it were, and know that what people see is real, it's true, it's us at our best. That was the example he gave. It's hard to follow. One of the young participants in Living Peace Now, which is our ministry, livingpeacenow.org, is a guy named Syed. He lives in Afghanistan. He was orphaned by the war. His father was killed when he was 14. He's now 22. He knew at the point that he became an orphan that he was meant to be a teacher. And he was very clear about that. And just, there was no free public education in Afghanistan. So anybody whose family can't afford tuition gets to remain illiterate. gets no education. And he was a middle school student, and he wanted to complete his education. Now, in Unity, we talk about the law of mind action, the metaphysical law of, having single purpose, of knowing what we want, of holding in our mind what we want, and of making it happen, of being so clear in our desire that the universe makes it happen for us. In other words, it's not up to me to fight all the fights and make happen what needs to happen. Doing it that way is really hard. We feel like we're overwhelmed. So Syed was really clear at age 14. And what happened? His uncle, according to Islamic law, his uncle became his mother's brother, became the family, the head of household, and the provider. I'm sure that the uncle must be a saint because Syed's family has 5 girls and him. And in Islam, 5 girls, that's a big liability in terms of, okay, getting them married, you got to give them dowries. It's still a very medieval system in a way. His uncle and his uncle's friends and his father's friends got together and supported Syed to get him through university. He just finished the last courses for his degree in English. And then the university got bombed and closed down. So he didn't get his degree, but he's qualified for it. And what he became aware of as a teenager was, generally most orphaned kids aren't getting educations. They're not as fortunate as I've been. So he started teaching boys and girls in his house. Everything he learned immediately turned around and got taught. And so as of 3 weeks ago, when Afghanistan is kind of imploded, he had, when he started working with us, we said, good old American idealism, why don't you teach your students to teach other students? And then there can be more orphaned kids getting educations. And he went right to it and he started to make it happen. And he had schools across 3 provinces with his students, his former students, his graduates teaching other people in their villages, other orphaned kids. So he's got the beginning of a movement. Unfortunately, he lived in Kandahar, which is one of the target cities for the Taliban. And a week and a half ago, the Taliban came into Kandahar and took over. Before that, civilians had gotten caught in the crossfire between the Taliban and the government. And the government bombed a whole lot of civilian houses, including Syed's family and those of his students. And he led them out of Kandahar into the mountains where they camped by the river and formed again as a community, helping each other based on his school. I mean, this has been the most amazing experience to watch. Somebody who really has peace in his heart. I talked to him about 4 days ago, after his house and everybody else's house had been flattened. And, people were being killed in the streets. And he had come back into the city because he wanted to get books and study materials for students to bring them back to the camp. So while he was in the city, there was internet and we were able to communicate for a few minutes. And he said, when all of this happened, I just kept saying, you need to keep your mind focused on the good that you want to experience and that you want to bring, no matter what happens around you, which is unity teaching. And so at that time, he said to me, yes, I've been thinking about that. I know that when I stay focused on being kind and love and being of service, I will be happy and so will others with me. So what I know at this point is that they have all gotten separated in the latest breakthrough. And he ended up with a seat on a bus going to Kabul. And he got there safely and has been standing in line to get a passport. I have no idea. It's a totally hopeless situation. And the last time we talked, I said, all we can do is pray. And all you can do is keep your heart at peace and focused. So I don't know, that's a way bigger challenge than anything I've ever had to deal with in following unity teachings. And to watch this person doing it has been an amazing role model for me, an amazing learning. And in various ways, I've had this opportunity with other participants from other countries as well as a part of this ministry. Interestingly enough, the people in Living Peace Now are putting together a GoFundMe so that if Syed makes it and becomes a refugee, that we will be able to support him in getting someplace where he at least can continue his education. And what can we do? That's what we can do. He's now our friend. And we have to maintain hearts at peace. We have to know that all appearances go away. And that ultimately what comes out of what seem like catastrophes are opportunities, always opportunities for greater love and for greater peace. We have to know that. We have to keep our hearts at peace, focused on that, not attached to any outcome, that love will win, because it always does. Not necessarily with any one person, but with the evolution of awareness in humanity. And that's keeping our heart at peace, which is challenging and powerful. So the peace that Jesus showed in his heart in the temple is the way to do it, to not judge anyone, to not get attached to any outcome, to trust that the universe underneath it all, the universe is goodness and love in expression. And that all of us are learning and studying and practicing, becoming better and better expressions of love and friendship, and peaceful hearts. And so it is.
Rosemary, will you be in a meditation?
Yes. The best meditation I could think of with this subject matter is the Buddhist tradition of metta, which invites us, and it's something that we can do as a daily practice, invites us to turn our attention to different people, including ourselves, and to send love. So as we breathe deeply and become aware of the life that we are sharing with everybody, with everything, in our breath. And we feel the air moving into our heart space and back out. We feel it in our nose. We feel our abdomen expanding. I invite you to think of a friend, someone you like, someone you love, and hold that person in mind as you say to them, may you enjoy health. May you be prosperous. May you be happy. May you be deeply at peace. And then I invite you to call to mind someone you know, but you don't have any strong feelings for or against. And hold that person in your mind and your heart and say to them, may you be healthy. May you be prosperous. May you be happy. May you experience deep peace in your heart and mind. And now I invite you to call to mind someone who, when you see them coming, you kind of want to disappear. You don't want to encounter them for whatever reason. And imagine yourself standing in front of that person, looking them in the eye and saying, may you be healthy. May you be prosperous. May you be happy. May you have deep peace in your heart. And now, finally, I want you to kind of figuratively look yourself in the eye. Hold yourself in your heart and say to yourself, may you be healthy. May you be prosperous. May you be happy. May you experience deep peace in your heart and mind. And sometime today, as you have the leisure, I invite you to do that series once again and to really feel what you have felt as you have wished goodness and joy to that whole range of people. And you don't have to do anything about it, just be aware, because it will tell you how peaceful your heart is and where you can make a difference by becoming more aware. And so it is.
Beautiful.